The Canadair CL-44 was a Canadian turboprop airliner and cargo aircraft based on the Bristol Britannia that was developed and produced by Canadair in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Although innovative, only a small number of the aircraft were produced for the Royal Canadian Air Force, and for commercial operators worldwide. The aircraft is named after the Canadian Yukon Territory. Design and development. In the 1950s, Canadair had acquired a license to build the Bristol Britannia airliner. Their first use of the license was to build the heavily modified Canadair CL-44 Argus patrol aircraft that combined the Britannia's wings and tail sections with a new fuselage and engines. The resulting aircraft had lower speed and altitude, but had 2 bomb bays and greatly extended loiter times. With an RCAF requirement for a replacement for its C-54 North Star fleets, Canadair began work on a long-range transport primarily intended to provide personnel and logistics support for Canadian forces in Europe. In January 1957 Canadair received a contract for 8 aircraft, later increased to 12. The RCAF designation for the new design was the CC-106 Yukon, while the company's civilian variant was known as the CL-44-6. In company parlance the CL-44 was simply the 44. The RCAF had specified the CL-44 to be equipped with Bristol Orion engines. When the British Ministry of Supply cancelled the Orion program, the RCAF revised the specifications to substitute the Rolls-Royce Tyne 11. The CL-44 fuselage was lengthened making it 12 feet 4 in longer than the Britannia 300 with 2 large cargo doors added on the port side on some aircraft, while the cabin was pressurized to maintain a cabin altitude of 2,400 m at 9,000 m. The design used modified CL-28 wings and controls. The Yukon could accommodate 134 passengers and a crew of 9. In the casualty evacuation role it could take 80 patients and a crew of 11. The rollout of the Yukon was a near disaster when the prototype could not be pushed out of the hangar since the tail was unable to clear the hangar doors. The first flight took place November 15, 1959 at Cartierville Airport. During test flights many problems were encountered from complete electrical failure to engines shaking loose and almost falling off. Rolls-Royce had problems delivering engines, resulting in the sarcastically named Yukon gliders being parked outside Canadair as late as 1961. Operational service. Initially, the CL-44-6 was produced for the RCAF as the CC-106 Yukon. Once initial problems were resolved, in RCAF service the Yukon performed well and in December 1961, a Yukon set a world record for its class when it flew 6,750 miles from Tokyo to RCAF Station Trenton, Ontario, in 17 hours, 3 minutes at an average speed of 400 miles per hour. Later, a Yukon set a new record staying airborne for 23 hours and 51 minutes. These records were unbroken until bettered by the Boeing 747 SP in 1975. By the time of their retirement, Yukons had flown 65 million miles, 1.5 billion passenger miles and 360 million ton miles. The CL-44-4 was briefly considered for purchase by the United States Air Force in the 1960s but the project was never culminated due to political backlash in Canada and the United States. The USAF purchase of the CL-44 was complicated by 2 factors. It came in the aftermath of the cancellation of the Avro Canada CF-105 Arrow and involved a swap deal wherein 100 McDonnell F-101 Voodoo fighters were obtained in return for a contract for 232 Centiliters-44D4 transports for the Military Air Transport Service. The political controversy that resulted led to problems for both a Quebec-based company receiving a contract so soon after an Ontario-based company had lost a major contract. The USAF also quickly found that buying a foreign aircraft was not easy when American companies wanted the business and relinquished the contract to Canadair, awarding an order to Boeing for the KC-135 Stratotanker. On the cargo aircraft variant CL-44-4 the entire tail section hinged. It could be opened using hydraulic actuators to load large items quickly. an inflatable seal at the hinge brake enabled cabin pressure to be maintained, and 8 hydraulic-operated locks assured structural integrity. The tail could be opened from controls within the tail in 90 seconds. The flight controls at the joint were maintained by a system of push pads. The CL-44D4 was the first large aircraft to be able to swing its tail, although some small naval aircraft had this feature to ease storage. These, however, required rigging before flight. There were only 4 original customers who bought and operated the CL-44D4. Loffler de Gruyere was the only passenger operator of the CL-44J, variant of CL-44D4 stretched on request by Canadair. It was the largest passenger aircraft flying over the Atlantic Ocean at that time. Loffler de Gruyere marketed the CL-44J under the name Rolls-Royce 400 prop jet. This led to the confusion that the CL-44J is sometimes referred to as the Canadair 400. Loffler de Gruyere Icelandic Airlines merged with Air Iceland in 1973 and became today's Iceliner. In 1981 a Baku, Azerbaijan-based Soviet Union interceptor deliberately rammed an Argentine Canadair CL-44 from transportee or copyright Rio Platens, killing the 3 Argentines and 1 Briton on board. The aircraft was delivering arms from Israel to Iran. Variants: CL-44-6, version built for the Royal Canadian Air Force as the CC-106 Yukon, 12 built, CL-44D4-1, civil, commercial cargo aircraft, civil prototype and production aircraft for Seaboard World Airlines, 8 built. CL-44D4-2, civil, commercial cargo aircraft originally built for Flying Tiger Line, 13 built. CL-44D4-6, civil, commercial cargo aircraft originally built for Slick Airways, 4 built. CL-44D4-8, civil aircraft for Loftlear, 2 built. CL-44J, 4 CL-44D4 aircraft stretched by Canadair on request of Icelandic Airlines Loftlear de Gruyere, with a section, 10 feet 1 in forward of the wing, and another section of 5 feet 1 in aft of the wing. This enabled the installation of 29 extra seats, bringing the capacity to 189 passengers. The maximum takeoff weight stayed the same since the extra weight was compensated by removing the center wing tanks. Therefore it can be said that the stretch was a trade of capacity for range. CL-44O, also known as the Skim Monster and CL-44 Guppy. The CL-44O was a single CL-44D4-2 converted by Conroy Aircraft, who removed the fuselage shell above the floorline, and rebuilt an enlarged fuselage to make it into a Guppy-type aircraft. It was intended to transport Rolls-Royce RB211 engine pods to the United States for Lockheed's L-1011 TriStar. Operators Civilian operators 4 original customers who bought and operated the CL-44D4 were, Seaboard World Airlines, the Flying Tiger Line, Slick Airways and the Icelandic Airlines Loftlear de Gruyere. All other operators operated second-hand aircraft. Unregistered trademark original operators, Argentina. Transportee or copyright Rio Platens, Aerotransports Enteranos, Australia. Heavy Lift Cargo Airlines was one of the operators of the CL-44 Guppy. Canada, Beaver Enterprises, Colombia, Aerocar Cuban de Colombia, Aeronautic Colombia, Cyprus, Cyprus Airways, Ecuador, AECA cargo-operated CL-44D4-1, Andes Airlines, El Salvador, TACA International Airlines, Gabon, SOACO, Indonesia, BEO Indonesian Air, Iceland, Loftlear de Gruyere an unregistered trademark, Ireland, Honduras, Lebanon, Trans-Mediterranean Airways, Libya, United African Airlines later became Jamaica Rear Air Transport, Luxembourg, Cargolux, Morocco, Royal Air Maroc, 1 aircraft leased in 1980, Peru, Aeronaves de Peru, Spain, Cargosa, Switzerland, Transvalair operated 2 aircraft. United Kingdom, BOAC operated a transatlantic cargo service with an aircraft leased from Seaboard World Airlines from 1963 until 1965. British Cargo Airlines, British Air Ferries, Transmeridian Air Cargo operated total 8 CL-44 including Guppy aircraft. United States, Air International Airlines, Air Express International, Airlift International, the Flying Tiger Liner unregistered trademark, Seaboard World Airlines unregistered trademark, Slick Airways unregistered trademark, Tradewinds Airlines, Wrangler Aviation, Uruguay, Aero Uruguay, Atlanta de Lineo copyright Re Sudamericana, Zaire, Societar copyright GAR copyright NAR copyright Rail d'Alimentation, Tramaco, Vic Air Cargo later Viringa Air Cargo. Military operators Canada, Royal Canadian Air Force unregistered trademark, number 412 Squadron RCAF used 2 aircraft as VIP transports. Number 426 Squadron RCAF, number 436 Squadron RCAF, number 437 Squadron RCAF received 11 Yukons. Number 4 Operational Training Unit RCAF. Canadian Forces. Accidents and Incidents, March 21, 1966, AN 453T, Flying Tiger Line, crashed upon landing at NAS Norfolk, Virginia due to crew inexperience. December 24, 1966, while trying to land in heavy fog on Da Nang International Airport, a Flying Tiger Line CL-44 crashed into the village of Vinh Hai, killing all 4 crew on board and 107 people on the ground. December 2, 1970, TFLLG Cargolux Airlines SA crashed on approach to Dhaka when controls lock system engaged. July 20, 1972, LVJYR, Aerotransports Entre Rios, AEA disappeared on a cargo flight from Carrasco International Airport, Montevideo, Uruguay to Santiago, Chile, with the loss of 5 crew members. December 22, 1974, GAWSC, Tradewinds Airways, written off following damage in hard landing at Lusaka, Zambia. September 2, 1977, GATZH crashed into sea while attempting emergency landing after an engine fire spread to the wing after takeoff from Hong Kong Kai Tak Airport. All 4 crew were killed. July 6, 1978, GBCWJ, Tradewinds Airways, written off after damage caused when main gear retracted after hard landing in Nairobi, Kenya. November 4, 1980, 5B Dan, Cyprus Airways, damaged beyond repair after an emergency landing at RAF Akrotiri, Cyprus. July 18, 1981 Armenia mid-air collision with a Soviet Sukhoi Su-15, leading to death of 3 crew and 1 passenger. April 6, 1986, HK-3148X of Líneas Aéreas Suramericanas, Colombia crashed upon approach to Barranquilla, Colombia. April 14, 2000, 3CZPO was damaged beyond economic repair when ammunition caught fire while on ground in Kinshasa. Survivors, the CC-106 Yukons retired in March 1971 and were replaced by the Boeing 707. The Yukons might have served longer with the Canadian Forces Air Transport Command but for 2 factors, the need for an aircraft which could operate as an in-flight refueling tanker, and the chronic shortage and high cost of spares, the latter resulting because the CL-44 had never gone into large-scale production. All Yukons were sold to South American and African operators as they could not be registered in Northern America or Europe since the Britannia windshields did not meet new security standards. The CC-106 had the original Bristol Britannia windshield and, on its retirement from RCAF operations, the cost of conversion was estimated at $250,000 per unit, cost alone precluding its use in North America and Europe. In 1974, a special exclusion was granted for the CC-106 for civil operations in Canada. In commercial operations, the CL-44 proved to be an extremely profitable aircraft to run with a fuel burn half that of a Boeing 707. The CL-44 burned 5,500 pounds of fuel per hour. This fuel consumption and its fuel tank's capacity gave 15 hours and longer in the air, cruising at an airspeed of 300 kts. It had a payload of 27 metric tons. After 40 years, out of the 39 aircraft built, 18 had either crashed or been destroyed in operation, 13 had been cut up, and 2 remain more or less operational. The remaining 8 aircraft are parked around the world or have already been scrapped. Not a single CL-44 had been conserved or been prepared for a museum, although the Ecuadorian Air Force salvaged No. 13 for eventual display at the New Aviation Museum in Guayaquil, Ecuador. The Guppy Skim Monster CL-44 was flown by the CL-44 Association from the USA to Great Britain to be preserved. As of 2010, it remains complete at Bournemouth Airport, England. As of 2013, this aircraft has been restored for flight and is currently undergoing ground engine runs. Specification CL-44D4, data from General Characteristics, Crew, 3, Capacity, 160 passengers, Length, 136 feet 11 inches, Wingspan, 142 feet 4 in, Height, 36 feet 8 in, Wing Area, 2,075 FTA², Empty weight, 88,952 pounds, Useful load, 66,048 pounds, Max takeoff weight, 210,000 pounds, Power plant, 4, Rolls-Royce Tyne 515/50 turboprops, 5,730 shp each, propellers, 4-blade variable pitch propellers, performance, cruise speed, 349 knots, range, 4,855 nanometers, service ceiling, 30,000 feet. See also: Related development, Bristol Britannia, Canadair CL-28, Conroy Skim Monster, related lists, list of military aircraft of Canada. References. Notes Bibliography External links, information on all 39 centiliters-44s produced. DND Euro Canada's Air Force Euro the Canadair CC-106 Yukon, detailed listing of all CL-44 accidents, Canadair CL-44 a 1958 flight article.